Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl, the CEO of Media Meerkat and the host of this podcast, Media Talks. I'm delighted to introduce my guest today. She's the new business director at BrainLabs. It's Farran Pringle. Hi Farran.
Hello, you all right?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you. Yeah, very good.
Good. I really appreciate you joining our podcast today. I think we're going to talk about a few things that are a little bit different than what we've spoken about on previous podcasts. So before we get to that, because I've got loads of questions for you, I'd love you just to kind of introduce a little bit about what you do, who you are, because I know that you've got a recruitment background as well. So really keen to kind of just have a little bit of a summary as to who you are.
Yeah, definitely. So to be honest, it's probably a bit of a shock that I've even agreed to something like this. 6 months ago, I would have probably been like, absolutely not. But I did do a LinkedIn post. I don't know if you saw it on World Mental Health Day. Just promising to be a bit more open, a bit more vulnerable. So yeah, kind of no holds barred. This is me.
Good for you.
Um, so yeah, like you mentioned, I do have a background in recruitment. But if we go back to the start, so I probably didn't take I definitely didn't take the kind of the traditional education route that probably majority of people in my role have taken. School was never for me. I was the disruptive naughty kid at the back of the class, wasn't interested in learning, was just interested in having a good time. And then I left school and I didn't want any more education. I didn't want uni. I didn't want anything like that. I just wanted to make money. I just wanted to hustle.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I did.
And that's
Kind
why
of
you got into recruitment.
um, not initially, to be honest. I kind of jumped across a few different jobs. I worked in like sales assistant roles. I then joined British Gas in the call centre. And as much as I absolutely hated the actual call center side of things, what I really lived for was the selling the boiler service at the end of the call. And I was actually really good at it. And kind of found that like this is what I like to do. Like I like to sell.
Yeah.
Um, Ended up getting an opportunity within recruitment. And yeah, loved my time in recruitment. I don't think many people will say that. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the roller coaster. I loved the up and down. I loved the no 2 days being the same. It was really where I thrived.
Yeah.
And yeah, from recruitment, I then moved across more kind of into a marketing agency where it was an Amazon agency when I first joined. So I joined Molesey. I was actually headhunted by a girl that used to recruit for a different business to me. We were in competition all the time.
Oh.
Um, and then yeah, I got headhunted, joined Molesey, and then Molesey were obviously bought out by BrainLabs. And then yeah, here I am.
So new business director, what does that mean in layman's terms?
So basically I'm responsible for all the outbound business. So the cold emails, the literally anything that doesn't come to the business and is like going out and fighting for business. That's me. And the guys that I work with.
And I can totally see how your background in recruitment has equipped you for that.
Yeah.
Because most people think, I mean, going back a couple of years ago, it really was, a candidate's market, and you didn't really have to win business, it came to you. That's not been the case for the majority of candidates and clients this year. So I can see how your background in recruitment definitely kind of puts you in a good stead for that. So what can like I know BrainLabs is doing quite well. You're one of the few companies in our space that is growing. You've received some funding, so I'm sure that has helped, but you've got multiple roles on. You are one of the few that I'm aware of that is, as I said, that is experiencing growth this year. But how can someone who is looking for a job, whether it's at BrainLabs or another kind of company within the media space, how can they kind of potentially adapt some of the things that you do on a daily basis for their own, for their own career? Because essentially, I feel like this year everybody there's this whole big push on personal branding, and I feel like everyone needs to be like their own recruiter this year.
Absolutely. I mean, personal branding for me is everything.
What is personal branding? Talk to me. What is it?
So for me, so my personal brand is mainly on LinkedIn. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I put a lot of effort into creating content and almost trying to start debates, really. People love to have somewhere that they can give their opinions. Like, it's human nature. Everybody's got an opinion on everything, and they just need an outlet to give it. So I'm probably marketing's best friend and also a worst nightmare sometimes with some of the things that I post. Because you know that's what people want to see. They want to see they don't want to see the just the things that are great. Like, people want to talk about the things that are not so good, like how we can improve things, how things can change. So for me, my personal brand's very much when I speak to someone for the first time, let's say I've sent them a couple of cold emails, they've finally agreed to have a call with me, just mainly to get rid of me, but they've agreed to have a call with me. I want to go into that call with them knowing a little bit about who I am. So I'd say 99% of my followers on LinkedIn know that I'm Northern, know that I absolutely love Yorkshire and I love being from Yorkshire. I'm so proud to be from here. They know that I love sales. Like, they know I've got a dog. I'll post about like when I've been on holiday, any learnings I've had on holiday. For me, any new information is a lesson, and I like to share that with everyone else, because if I can learn from it, hopefully somebody else can as well.
Yeah, I do think there's, I mean, I agree, and I do a lot on LinkedIn as well. You know, you kind of have to if you're in the sort of this space that we're in. But there's a lot on LinkedIn, and tell me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be a lot on LinkedIn about this is kind of like not a rags to riches story, but this is where I was 5 years ago. Follow these 10 steps and you'll get where I am. And I kind of, sometimes I can go down like a real rabbit hole for ages, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be the answer to everything. But how do you be authentic? And how can you be authentic in a job market when some people are desperate for work?
Just be you. Like, warts and all. Like, I suppose I hate the whole rags to riches thing. It's so cringy. But it almost is true. Like, I don't come from a traditional kind of family where everything was perfect growing up, and
Yeah.
you know, I had all this money and I had everything I ever wanted, and you know, I was given all this support to go out and do what I wanted to do. For me, there wasn't any kind of option to not be successful. Like, I had to be successful. Like, I had, you know, I'm very, very close to my mum. Like, I look after my mum. She, you know, I needed to do well for her. I needed all the sacrifices she made being a young mum and me not being the best child to be worth it for, you know, me to be a better adult. And yeah. Sorry.
Will you write about that? Is that part of your story?
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I'm more than happy to kind of be open about all that sort of stuff, but I don't think that hasn't made me any better at my job than someone that's got, I don't know, degrees and is very well educated. But I feel that it's given me a lot more drive and determination, because I didn't have the option to not have that drive. I didn't have the option to not be bringing in a wage every week, every month.
Yeah, you didn't have that backup.
Yeah, so you know, when you're in a place where it's like I need to do well, because I want all the sacrifices that my family have made for me to be worth it. Like, I had to do it, and ultimately that's kind of got me where I am. And I suppose that's still very much the mindset that I've got with every deal card that I open within the business. I'll look at it and I'll be like, that can get this month. That means this can happen this month. And that's very much the mindset that I'm in.
There's a bit of controversy on LinkedIn as to, we're just talking about LinkedIn again, but just about whether you should be personal. you know, I know it's personal branding, but you know, the amount of things I read, oh, LinkedIn's becoming like Facebook, keep your personal stories private. Now, I personally am a very open book, and I talk very, very openly, even in client meetings with, you know, men on their own about my fertility struggles, because a lot of people want to know why I left the industry as a creative, as a head of television, to go as to be a recruiter. And I say, I tried for years to have a baby. I had to have IVF for her. And if I was lucky enough to be a mum, I wanted to raise her. That's my story. Now, there are people that will not even tell their children that they're IVF, let alone tell it to the world. I have no issue with it. I don't. I think it's part, you know, to me, it shows how much she was loved. But anyway, she's only 3.5, so she has no idea how she came about. But one day she'll know. But a lot of people just feel like it needs to be just, you know, completely professional, and if I do that, then it's going to put off potential employers. But that's not the experience that I have. I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are on that.
No, absolutely. And I think if a potential employer is put off by your actual personal journey, which is your life, then they're not the right employer for you. I spent I call it a joke, but it's actually pretty true. So the only test I've ever got 100% in is an ADHD test. But yeah, I kind of hid that for years because I thought that would be like, that would put potential kind of employers and things like that. I thought it'd put people off, that kind of, I'm a bit all over the place, I'm a bit of a scatterbrain, I've got 150 plates spinning at once.
Yeah.
I'll start 500 tasks at once. Like, I've always got to have so much going on to keep my brain kind of stable. And I hid that for a long time, thinking that would put people off. But what I actually found when I actually opened up about it at Molesey and BrainLabs, it was seen as a positive, that I can have so much going on at once and be focusing on so many different things at once, that I hate this superpower. But
yeah,
almost like, you know, almost like I can have all this going. There's some people who are like so hyper focused on one task, and that's brilliant because that one task is done kind of start to finish, excellent. But if there's a load of different things that need doing, I'm kind of that person, because I can mix it all and do it at once. So it's almost it is now, I do see it as a positive as opposed to anything else. At the same time, like, my energy levels are kind of through the roof, but everyone needs that uplifting, energetic person around, that, you know, with a positive mindset, that's like ready to get everyone going. For the most boring, I can make the most boring. I work in sales, like I do cold emails. Like, some people will see that and it'll be like, fill them with dread, whereas I can make it so exciting that people do get on board and do get excited to go along with it and be part of it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that then, because I strongly believe that in order to get a job at the moment in this market, you need to be like your own recruiter. So I encourage candidates, I speak to people all day long and they're like, can you help me get a job? And I'm like, yes, I can help you to a degree, but you're gonna have to really help yourself. And that may mean I'm not saying necessarily like cold emails out, but it may be. So I have this thing where I encourage people to kind of think about like their dream 10 or dream 20 companies that they want to work for. And then that should be so like hyper focused and hyper targeted on why and who and how and all that kind of thing, and then kind of reach out to those people. That's kind of one of the things. It's also one of the strategies that I use in my business to reach out to certain clients. But how does someone who might not have the sales background that you have, that might be a creative and doesn't really want to go down the AI ChatGPT route of just kind of asking it to write me a cold email, what strategies can they implement? Or is there like a method or something that you follow that generally will get some kind of response, even if it's not necessarily a yes?
So if you're a creative, obviously your talents lie within making things look good. So a creative is going to have a better looking CV than me, I would imagine, because that's where their talents lie. But if you are a creative, like, think outside the box. If you're applying for, I don't know, for example, let's say you're applying for a job with an airline, just for argument's sake, like, don't just send a CV. Like, find who their head talent person is and create something like a passport or a boarding pass, or put put something together to then send to that business. It's got all your information on. It's basically a CV, but you're thinking outside the box and you're doing something different. Even if you're not right for that job, they're going to remember you.
That's a good point. There is this kind of scattergun approach at the moment where people are applying. I mean, I spoke to a client the other day and they had employed an office PA and they had 850 applicants for that one role, which is nuts. And that's, you know, that's an office PA role. So for kind of producers or copywriters or senior, you know, senior sort of talented roles, they're getting 1,000, 1,500. And I always say to candidates, and tell me if I'm wrong, and I'd love to know your opinion on it, but I always say you have to be hyper focused on that particular company. You can't put one CV out on one cover letter to 500 and expect that that's going to land somewhere.
No, absolutely. And that it goes back to business development and kind of what I do. There isn't one email that fits every client. There isn't one blog that's right for every client. There isn't one case study that's right for every client. Like you've got to really be so personal and specific. And again, it's being remembered. You know, the sales director of Coca-Cola isn't going to remember me for sending him an email that is the same as I've sent to every other business within the FMCG space. However, it will remember me if I put into that email something personal about him. I relate it to something that he's posted on LinkedIn or is kind of connected with on LinkedIn or he's shared or anything like that. If I relate that back to something personal, then you almost feel like you know that person more because they're actually interested in you. It makes you feel a bit special and you're more inclined to reply.
Agreed, 100%. But that takes time though, right?
It does take time, but would you rather send 5 personal emails and get 5 responses or send 500 shot in the darks and get maybe 1?
I totally agree. How have you found it this year? You know, I don't want to go down the whole 2023 rabbit hole because I talk about that enough because it has been bloody hard work. But how, and you know, as I said at the beginning, BrainLabs has done quite well this year, but have you guys noticed, have you felt it?
Oh, of course we've felt it. I think every company, I don't think there's a company that hasn't felt it. You know, it's been a difficult time. There's so much going on. Everything's changing kind of every day. We've definitely felt it, but like it's about kind of finding a way past the hurdles. Like you get to a hurdle, you need to get over it, and that's very much where our teams all kind of pull together, and we'll get kind of 6-8 people in a room, all from different parts of the business. Like, look, this is a hurdle. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Brilliant, we've got a solution here. Let's go.
And how many people work underneath you in your team?
So there's just in the outbound team, there's 3 of us.
And they report to you, or
just one person reporting to me. And then we've got kind of other people doing bits and bats of outbound just based on their own kind of accounts and what they're looking after, just because they enjoy it.
yeah.
But the main focus is me and another girl in my team.
And how do you find, you've touched on sort of, you know, you've touched on mental health and you know, your ADHD and things like that, but how do you then, in a difficult market, with sales is hard. I've done sales before, you know, I still do it, I'm in recruitment. So it's one of the hardest jobs you can do because you're selling people to people. Both sides of the fence is hard. But how do you keep people focused in a downturn? And and a lot of people are coming to me asking for some support in that area because they're like, how do I keep going? Should I quit now, Cheryl? Should I be going and changing industries altogether? And I mean, it's super personal, isn't it? It depends on a whole heap of things. But how do you approach that within your team?
So for me personally, quitting is not an option. Like, I have to make a success of it. So I don't have the option to quit. So that's never something that would enter my mind. It just wouldn't. I've removed it from my mindset. But I suppose it's coming up with new ideas, new ways to do things. So we've been doing a lot kind of I've noticed LinkedIn are promoting video at the minute, and you're getting the best reach kind of from video. So we've been doing a lot of video, personalized videos to kind of our top targets, just keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting. Like, I don't want you to just send 200 LinkedIn messages and emails a day, because that's boring. Like, anyone would get bored doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Do creative stuff. I've always got like a mad idea up my sleeve. Honestly, like the stuff that you think of when you're just in the shower or
Yeah.
like driving around, and I'll think of it and I'll voice note myself like, this is brilliant.
That's a great idea, voice noting yourself.
Honestly, if you could go through the notes in my phone and all the voice notes that I've sent to myself, I sometimes go back and like listen to some of the brilliant ideas that I've had that are just never gonna work, but at the time, like, that was going to be revolutionary. But yeah, and I suppose because we're a media agency as well, we can do things that are a little bit on the cuff,
Yeah.
which really works for me. I mean, when I worked in recruitment, some of the things, so there'd be, if there were kind of clients that that just weren't responding. There were one day I went and I bought a load of shoes from Priceless Shoes or Shoe Zone, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just sent them out to clients that weren't responding with a note saying, please see this as my foot in the door. And a business card, like, just weird stuff, but people remember you for it.
An actual shoe, a pair of shoes, or just one?
Just one. Shoes are expensive. You're only getting one.
Did you actually get responses from that?
So I got a couple of responses, and then a couple of people shared it on LinkedIn, like, this has just arrived at my desk. But then from people sharing that, so many more people then connected with me, and I saw new business come from people that I'd not even sent the parcels to, just seen it. But again, it's LinkedIn, it's networking, it's social, it's, if I can send you something that you laugh, but you're not interested in my services, but you think that was funny, I'm gonna build my personal brand, I'm gonna share this on LinkedIn to my followers. By you sharing that, you're also helping me, because you're sharing it to everyone who knows you. There is someone who's probably in the market for that service who will then contact me.
Yeah.
It's relative.
I love that. I've not heard of that before. That's very original. I might think about it. Although the postage on some shoes is quite a lot.
Oh, they were only cheap shoes, don't worry.
I like it. I'd be very interested to know if anybody actually liked them, was like, oh, it's a shame they only sent me one. Quite like the other one to that. Talking of like personal branding and kind of being social and things like that, like there is a pressure, and I feel it sometimes, to kind of be across all the platforms. TikTok generates this amount of users, and Facebook is still really the algorithm. There's so much that sometimes I will spend all day creating content and not actually doing my job. Is there a way around that? Should you pick one platform? Should you go to all of them? Like, if you're in a job search, or if you're looking for work, I would say probably predominantly LinkedIn. But there is this pressure, though, isn't there? Don't you think?
Absolutely, but I suppose if you've got an idea on the content that you want to create and it is a video, there's no reason why you can't create that video on TikTok and then share it across your other platforms, as opposed to trying to create new content for each platform. I'm very much an advocate of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
If you created it for one platform, I'm not sure on the kind of, I've not got into the rabbit hole of TikTok recruitment. I don't know if there's any recruiters that are using TikTok or job hunters using TikTok. So I would always say, yeah, by all means, create the content, like, make it great, use all the kind of the different effects and stuff that you can use on TikTok. But LinkedIn is where your hiring managers are. So get it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, agreed. I don't do TikTok, but I was playing around with it yesterday. I thought I'm just gonna have a try, and what I loved about it was I had no makeup on at all, and it had a filter where it literally did and it was perfect. This is great. I don't even need to put anything on. It's done it for me. This is crazy. But it feels, yeah, one day I'll get my head around it. But you mentioned about mindset, and I'm getting the impression that that's really important to you. I also feel like, not that I want to be negative to every conversation I have with you, but I also feel like there's a pressure with the mindset. You know, it's all about your mindset. Make sure you meditate, make sure you journal, make sure you go for a nice walk. Like there's also a lot, isn't there, to have to deal with just that space alone.
No, yeah, absolutely. I suppose with my mindset, so I try and keep a positive mindset. It's got me this far. I try and find a positive in even the negative. So we could have a big pitch, we could put hours and hours and months of work into it, get to the final two and not get picked, for example. It happens all the time. Not too often. We're very good. But obviously the mood in the room at that point, when it's like, oh, we've gone with your biggest competitor, it's quite, obviously everyone's a bit like, oh.
Yeah.
So my instant kind of reaction is to be like, right guys, like that was brilliant, like we've done such a good job, we've got to the last two, let's get feedback, let's see why we wasn't chosen over somebody else, let's see why did we get to the final two, what did we do so great that got us there, and what can we improve on to get over the line next time, because that one thing that we can improve on might be something that's out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's feeling negative about not winning an opportunity, but it could be that it's not that it's not being won because of something we've done. It could be something internal at their side.
Yeah.
That then there's no need to be down about it. Like, we've got this far, like we've taken all these learnings, we've created this incredible pitch that we can use moving forward. All the learnings that we've taken from this pitch we can use in 5 others, so let's go get 5 more businesses that want all this information that we've got now for this pitch, and let's win them instead. Like, they're lost, they'll come back to us next year when they realize that we were better.
Can I come and work for you? You sound like the perfect boss. I agree with all of that. I did like a mindfulness and mindset course a couple of years ago, and it was like I don't know, I think it was like 12-week intensive course kind of every week, and I found it incredible, genuinely incredible, how it's just something else that you have to kind of retrain, and once you retrain it a few times, and I found that towards the end of it, if something was stressing me out, I immediately went to breathe, to the breath, and to kind of like, and it was crazy, but it's also crazy how quickly you can lose that with life. And it's just one of those, it's another thing like going to the gym, you know, you kind of have that muscle memory, you keep doing it, it's easier to go back. But I do feel like there is a bit of a pressure sometimes, and I think in a job market that is as unstable as it is, and there doesn't feel like there's huge amounts of positives out there at the moment, to kind of have this positive mindset. You know, I do think sometimes people think if you have a positive mindset, you do your affirmations, you believe, it will happen. I don't think personally that that's the case. You know, sometimes life is rubbish.
Yeah, no, I'm not someone that does kind of manifesting or affirmations or anything like that. That's just never been on my radar. I'm very much like, I want this, I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah, I had a meeting the other day, and we were talking about something, and I said something that was a bit negative, and they said, well, you know, if you want it enough, you'll get it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not sure that just wanting it is enough. I think you might have to do your steps to get there.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I want a Ferrari. I've got to do a lot before it's parked on my drive, but I don't believe sitting and thinking, I want a Ferrari is going to get me there. But what is going to get me there is, right, I need to win X amount of deals. I need to do this, and this to get a promotion to this, to be paid this, to be able to afford this. Yeah, and that's where my Ferrari will come from.
Yeah. Do you want a Ferrari?
I would love a Ferrari.
What colour?
Oh, red, of course.
Knew you were going to say red, obviously. No, I agree. I'm not underplaying. I'm not at all the effort. I think there's so much value in it, but I think it's really breaking it down to what you've said. Is if you want that and you believe you can get it, then doing all these things is going to get you there. But just believing it is not. Just sitting there hoping that you're going to get the next dream job of yours is not going to work. You have to do all those things to get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to think that if I wish for something enough, I'll get it, but
life's not like that. No,
it's not. And yeah, I'm quite a target focused person. I like to have a target that I have to reach. So at work, that'll be kind of a financial target.
Yeah.
In my home life, it'll be something that I really want, be it a deposit for a house or a new car, or I've seen some new trainers that are far too expensive and I shouldn't be spending that amount of money on something to just go on my feet when I've got 50 other pairs, but I want it. So
you can go to Shoe Zone, I'm just saying. With regards to your role and AI, is it affecting you guys much? Do you have to, like, are you having to do huge amounts of training on it? Are you frightened of it?
I'm frightened of it, but I think that's just because I'm frightened of technology in general. I'm honestly, remember when you were a kid and your nan would ask you to set up a new phone? I'm now that nan that's like, I don't know what to press, I don't know what I'm doing. At work, I'm like, if I go into a meeting room at work, I'm like, somebody else needs to set this board up, because although it's only pressing one button, I can't press that one button. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, fair enough.
So
But will you adopt it? Are you adopting it?
So as a business, yeah. But as a business, we build a lot of our tools ourselves. We've invested really heavily into kind of data engineers and like super smart people that know and are interested in all the technology side of things. So yeah, it's a big thing within the business. But something I'm trying to avoid for as long as possible, because as long as I've got control, like I'm comfortable. As soon as a computer's taken over and it's controlling what I'm doing, it does scare me a bit.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. That's just another thing that we have to kind of learn. And all these youngsters out there that are kind of born into it, and I'm like, it blows my mind. Like I have to watch a million YouTube videos to kind of understand one or two things, and they can just get it. That's an advantage to them, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Massive advantage. Right, lastly, I just want to find out what is next for you. What's your plan? Like, what do you want to? I'm sure you have a plan based on this conversation alone. I'm pretty sure you do. What's next, and what's your thoughts for 2024?
So for me, what's next is to just continue building on what I've started to build at the minute. For me, the business development team at BrainLabs, we're only just at the foundations. Like there's so many bigger things that we can be doing and that we're in the process of doing and we're going to be doing. So for me, it's to continue that growth, continue my personal growth as well. Make sure I'm being the best manager I can be, the best employee I can be. And ultimately my job is to bring in new business. So my plan for 2024 is as many big clients that I can reach out to and get conversations with and get into our pipeline. Like that's my target. I want targeting myself on 8 big clients, or what we'd call like big fish.
Ambitious, eh?
Well, yeah, you don't get anywhere. So yeah, I've targeted myself on 8, which I've told myself is less than 1 a month, so definitely achievable. But we'll see this time next year where I'm at with it.
I tell you what, we'll do another podcast next year, and you can tell me where you're at. I'm sure it'll be more than 8. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
See you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Thanks everyone for watching. Bye.